Imagine you've been saving up for months, setting your alarm for 3 in the morning just to fight for tickets. But you still lost the race to tens of thousands of other armies around the world. Then you hear this. Thousands, maybe tens of thousands of armies still showed up in Toronto, right outside Rogers Stadium, even though not a single one of them was holding an actual ticket. Not to get inside the venue, but to stand outside, in the pouring rain, just to hear the roar of 50,000 people inside as RM, Jin, Suga, Jhope, Jimin, V, and Jungkook took the stage. Sounds crazy? But that's exactly what happened this weekend in Toronto, Canada. And the videos, the photos, have already stirred up timelines everywhere. Let's break down what actually happened, why this became such a massive phenomenon, and what it means for anyone who's ever considered themselves part of a fandom. Okay, before we get into the big moment, we need to understand the context first. Why is this concert such a huge deal? BTS returned to perform in Toronto for the first time in more than a decade. Just think about that for a second. 10 years. Kids who were still in middle school the first time they heard a BTS song are probably working adults now, earning their own money, and finally getting the chance to see their idols live in their own city. This concert is part of a world tour called the Arirang World Tour, held over 2 consecutive nights, Saturday and Sunday, at Rogers Stadium. Both nights were sold out, completely gone. Not a single ticket left through official channels. And that's exactly where the problem started. When demand is so much higher than supply, what happens? People who missed out on tickets don't just give up. Some of them decided to show up at the venue anyway, not to watch from inside, but to soak in the atmosphere from outside. And it turned out their numbers were far bigger than anyone expected. According to reports from various Canadian local media outlets, armies started arriving at the Rogers Stadium area as early as 3 in the afternoon, even though the concert wouldn't start until night. 3 in the afternoon. That means many of them were willing to spend hours just standing around, waiting, carrying light sticks, posters, and other classic army gear. What made this moment even more dramatic was the weather in Toronto that weekend, which was far from friendly. Rain poured down, cold winds blew hard. But just watch the footage. None of that dampened their spirit, even a little. Thousands of people stood their ground, sang together, shared umbrellas, even danced a little in the drizzle. Several journalists covering the scene live described the atmosphere as something like a massive reunion. Not just about watching a concert, but about celebrating togetherness as one community. Some came alone from out of town. Some came in groups with fellow fandom friends they were meeting in person for the first time after years of only interacting online. Here's the interesting part. Not everyone in that massive crowd actually had an official ticket. Most of them were genuine concert-goers who would be heading inside the stadium. But there was also a fairly significant group who traveled all that way with no ticket at all. These are the ones who came to be known, within the army community itself, as the Finside audience, a term born from fans who chose to show up even knowing they wouldn't get inside. Phenomena like this aren't exactly new in the world of major concerts. But the scale in Toronto this time is what really caught people off guard. Not hundreds, but an estimated tens of thousands of people gathered around the venue. This is the question that popped up the most in the comment sections once these videos went viral. Why? Why show up from so far away, sometimes crossing cities or even provinces, if in the end all you can do is stand outside the fence? If we try to understand this through the lens of fandom psychology, the answer actually makes a lot of sense. For many armies, BTS isn't just a music group. It's part of their life journey. Some say BTS songs got them through the hardest periods of their lives, whether that was depression, school pressure, family problems, or an identity crisis during their teenage years. So when there's a chance for this group to perform in their own city, something that might not happen again anytime soon, many of them felt this was a moment they couldn't afford to miss, even if all they could do was stand outside. There's also a strong social element at play here. A BTS concert isn't just about watching a performance. It's about being part of a collective moment. Standing among tens of thousands of people all shouting the name of their favorite member, all lighting up their light sticks together, that creates its own emotional experience, even without setting foot inside the venue. Several fans interviewed by local media admitted they came specifically to feel the energy of the crowd, almost like an impromptu street festival. Some brought portable speakers, blasting BTS songs on the sidewalk. Some sold homemade merchandise. Others simply sat around watching a live stream of the concert on their phones, surrounded by hundreds of other people doing the exact same thing. This created a kind of mini ecosystem outside the venue, a celebration of its own running in parallel with the official concert happening inside. Of course, a crowd this massive didn't go unnoticed by local residents and authorities. Just picture it, a city that's usually pretty calm suddenly flooded with a sea of people in eye-catching outfits, carrying giant bullet-shaped light sticks in white and purple, lining the streets all the way to the stadium. Some locals unfamiliar with K-pop culture were genuinely surprised by the scale of the crowd. Some filmed videos from their apartment balconies, showing a sea of people stretching as far as the eye could see. Those videos quickly spread across social media, sparking curiosity even among people who had never really followed K-pop before. On the security side, organizers and city authorities reportedly anticipated this surge in visitors. Rogers Stadium itself is a relatively new and fairly large venue, so overall the flow of ticketed attendees in and out was generally well managed. Still, the area outside the venue, where the ticketless crowd gathered, remained a point of concern given how far the numbers exceeded initial predictions. Fortunately, based on the reports circulating, there were no major incidents recorded. The atmosphere in the crowd was described as orderly despite the density, with a spirit of togetherness far outweighing any potential for chaos. This is also one of the hallmarks of BTS fandom culture in general, known for being fairly disciplined and protective of its community's positive image, even in situations that could easily spiral out of control like this one. Now, this is the fun part to talk about. So many small moments from this outside-the-venue crowd ended up going viral on their own. There's a video of an ARMY bursting into tears the moment she heard the opening song of the concert faintly playing from inside the stadium, even though she herself was standing far outside the fence. That video racked up millions of views because so many people related to her emotion, even though logically she couldn't even see the stage at all. There's also a moment when a group of ARMYs formed together to sing one of BTS's songs a cappella on the sidewalk, complete with a mini choreography, drawing the attention of pedestrians and passing drivers. Some of them even stopped to film it, some joined in the dancing, despite clearly not being part of the fandom. Another touching moment involved fans meeting each other for the first time. There's a story about two ARMYs from different cities who had previously only known each other through an online group chat, finally meeting in person outside the stadium, hugging like they'd known each other for years. Stories like this popped up everywhere, a reminder of how a fandom can create real human connections, even across distance and time. And of course, there were funny moments too. There's a video of a father who drove his daughter to the concert, initially looking confused and a bit uncomfortable in the middle of the crowd, but by the end of the video, he was seen raising a light stick and swaying along to the music. This video was widely loved because it captured how fandom energy can be contagious, even to someone who wasn't interested at all in the beginning. But of course, behind all the euphoria and heartwarming moments, there's also a side we need to look at more carefully. Ticket scalping and online scams always cast a shadow over major concerts like this. Some reports mentioned ARMYs falling victim to fake ticket scams ahead of the concert, lured in by cheap prices from unofficial sellers, only to arrive at the venue and realize the tickets they bought weren't valid. This is an important reminder for all of us. No matter how much love we have for a fandom, we still need to stay cautious and only buy tickets through official channels. Beyond that, a crowd this size also carries real safety risks. Standing for hours in the rain and cold, packed into a dense crowd, isn't without its dangers. Exhaustion, dehydration, and the risk of getting separated from your group are all real possibilities. Fortunately, based on available reports, the situation in Toronto that weekend remained relatively safe and under control, but it's still an important note for organizers of similar events going forward on how to accommodate this level of fan enthusiasm without compromising safety. This phenomenon has also sparked an interesting broader discussion about the concert ticketing industry as a whole. When demand so vastly outstrips venue capacity, it raises the question, is the current ticket sales system fair enough? How many tickets end up in the hands of scalpers before genuine fans even get the chance to buy them? This has become part of a much bigger conversation, not just about BTS, but about the music concert industry as a whole in today's era. So why is a phenomenon like this worth discussing in more depth, rather than just being treated as a passing bit of viral news? First, it shows just how strong and loyal a modern fandom can be. BTS isn't just an ordinary music group anymore. They've become a global cultural phenomenon capable of mobilizing tens of thousands of people, even without the promise of watching the show from inside the venue. Second, it reflects how fandom culture in the digital age has grown far beyond simply watching a concert. There's a community element, a sense of identity, even a kind of emotional outlet woven deeply into the experience of being part of a fandom like ARMY. Standing outside a venue, in the rain, just to faintly hear the music, that's no longer a matter of being rational or irrational, but about a deeply personal meaning for each individual. Third, this phenomenon has also opened the eyes of many parties, from event organizers to city authorities to major brands, about the sheer economic and social scale a music fandom can generate. It wouldn't be surprising if more cities in the future start setting up dedicated viewing areas outside venues, specifically to accommodate fans who couldn't get tickets but still want to be part of the moment. So, out of everything we've covered today, there's one thing I think is worth reflecting on the most. This phenomenon of tens of thousands of armies willing to show up without tickets, standing in the rain, just to feel the atmosphere of a concert, isn't just some viral news story for a quick scroll. It's a story about how music and togetherness can move people to do things that might sound irrational to some, but feel deeply meaningful to those living it. It's a story about loyalty, about human connection across cultures and languages, and about how a fandom can create such a powerful sense of belonging. For those of you who might be thinking, how can people go that far? Try asking yourself, what's something that's ever made you do something beyond ordinary logic, just for something you love? Maybe not a concert, maybe something else entirely. But somehow, that kind of passion feels pretty universal, don't you think? And that's the full story on the phenomenon of ARMY flooding the outside of BTS's Toronto concert this past weekend. What do you all think? If you were one of the ARMYs who missed out on a ticket, would you still show up at the venue like they did? Or would you rather just watch from home? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you found today's story entertaining or moving. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out on more content like this, and share it with your fellow ARMY friends so they know just how incredible this moment really was. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.